Hi YouTube. You can see here on my way to the start of the climb, you're very close to the cars, and here's the beginning of the official climb segment on Strava. But as you can see, you're close to a lot of cars. They pass pretty close by, but actually I have to say that I never felt unsafe at any moment, even though you are quite close to traffic. Cars are pretty aware of all the cyclists, and as you can see on my left hand side here with those cyclists coming downhill, I mean, there's just so much. You can't really forget for a second that, hey, there's other people on this road with me. On my right here, you'll see some people who are, I guess they're hiking up the mountain, which is, yeah, I found really interesting. I decided to take the right side here onto the sidewalk, I guess. Just because I wasn't sure what the whole infrastructure would look like going up the climb. And it turns out most of the climb, you really are just on the road. But I figured I'd take it safe. Alright, so this is in December 2022 when I visited Bogota. And I had seen countless cycling videos here, so I decided to try one of Bogota's most popular climbs. Right there, you just saw the guy pass me. I am in a bike share, so I guess I have a little bit of an excuse. But my only problem with trying to find a climb to do was I didn't have a bike. And even though bike rentals were cheap, the place that I had found for bike rental was not that close to where I was staying. And I actually had already purchased a Tembici membership, which is the new bike share program there. So I said, yeah, let me just try it. I'm going to try to take the Tembici all the way up one of Bogota's most famous climbs here, which is called Alto de Patios. Now, as of January 2023, the Patios climb had 1.8 million attempts by over 76,000 people on Strava. And as a reference, this is just less than one of the most popular segments in the US, a stretch of Central Park called Three Sisters with 85,000 people. Sorry, real quick, this guy on a mountain bike just passes me. It was just fun to see. But one of the most popular segments in the US is called Three Sisters, and there's 85,000 people who have attempted that. And of course, that's in the most populated city in the US, in Central Park. However, an important thing to note when you compare these stats is that this climb is a legitimately difficult climb. But depending on where you start, it's about 4 miles with an average of over 6%, a total elevation of over 1,200 feet. And here on the left here, you can actually begin to see a lot of Bogota just at the beginning of the climb here. The Central Park segment, on the other hand, has an elevation of 60 feet. 60. And as another reference point, Haynes Point in DC, where I live, has 1.5 million attempts, which is less than the Patios climb. And those attempts were only completed by 20,000 people. And the elevation gain of Haynes Point is maybe 6 feet. So you can just compare the two a little bit. Like, okay, yes, we do have segments of Strava in the US that have similar amount of attempts, but they're significantly easier and significantly easier to get to. So really, this should show you the level of cycling craziness that is in Colombia in general and Bogota in particular. So to be honest, I was really worried leading up to this climb that I wouldn't be able to make it all the way up. This in the camera here are two of the only people really that I passed. But I told myself I would monitor my body, and if I was really feeling terrible about the halfway point, it'd be okay to turn around. I gave myself a few off ramps because I didn't want to sort of overdo it and then kind of ruin my vacation as a result. However, as I started climbing, I realized one of the amazing things about bike shares. They're not that great at going fast, but they're pretty fantastic at going slow. The lowest common denominator and all that, like these bikes have got to be operable by as many people as possible, after all. So while I would never win in a sprint, going up a climb is actually not too bad. I stuck in the lowest of 3 gears for most of the ride. I'm getting past here again. But occasionally I went up into the second gear when the road flattened out a bit. But mostly I just kind of settled in for a long, slow, and steady climb. This guy in front is really grinding it out. He's in a bigger gear here. I guess some people would like to do different types of training. So I knew Bogota was a city of cyclists, but wow, it was really shocking to see it in person. I went through this entire video and I counted how many cyclists I saw on this climb. And if you're really bored, you can do that too. I know I sped up the video, so it might be hard to see. But I came up with a grand total of over 500 cyclists, and this is over the course of about 40 minutes. And the most amazing thing was probably just the variety of the types of cyclists that we see. And you can see that, I'm being passed by people in mountain bikes. I'm being passed by people, I think a little bit later on, in steel frame, like 1990s Trek bikes. It's really anyone. I saw people coming down with what looked like single speeds, and they were delivering food in Rappi or something like that. We had people who were fully kitted out in pro jerseys. They were likely just fans, but I saw a lot of Movistar jerseys, a lot of Ineos jerseys. But actually, I know a lot of pros actually do train in these hills. In fact, one of my biggest regrets and sort of most significant missed connections in my life, but on this very day, Egan Bernal, Tour de France winner, amazing cyclist, he biked down from Zipaquira, where he lives, which is a little bit north of Bogota, all the way down to Patios, and then back to Zipaquira. I had been looking at his Strava while I was in Bogota, and I noticed, he does ride basically every day, but he tends to stay around Zipaquira. It's probably quieter, beautiful up there, a lot of hills and stuff. He doesn't really venture into Bogota. But on this day, basically at roughly a few hours after I finished this climb, he and I had overlapped by just a little bit. So I'll show you some photos from that. He started his ride around 10:20 a.m. and I started my ride around 10 a.m. At the very bottom of his route goes right to the tip of Patios, but from the opposite direction. If you zoom in really closely, you'll see that our routes intersected by about 30 feet. The turnaround point for my ride was about the turnaround point for his ride. So basically, we're the same person with the same ideas, and if maybe I had been born in a different place, I could be a cycling superstar too. I don't know. So of the 500 cyclists that I saw, I think I passed a total of 5 to 6 cyclists on the bike share, which, surprised me probably more than it surprised them. And I had around 5 or 6 people pass me, maybe a little bit more than that. So kind of even out in the end there. I do it to myself. I don't know why. I do it to myself. I don't know why. I think at this point I am around, there you go, kilometer 5. So I wasn't sure exactly how they were counting the kilometers, what it would look like at the top. But I remember, okay, I'm getting towards the end here. I think that I can make it, but not exactly sure when the climb is going to end. I was pretty tired, I remember, but feeling optimistic. I think kilometer 3 and 4 was pretty difficult because it felt like I was spent a long time on the climb, but I wasn't close to the end. So I was feeling more optimistic at this point. This guy was super nice. He waved at me. I did get a few stares. I think mostly the Tembici. I'm also one of the only Asian people that I saw in Bogota, so maybe some of the stares because of that. Yeah, just such a gorgeous day. I think it was around 60 or 70 degrees. People are really friendly. Zoomed up, the cars look like they're really passing you quickly, but they're actually very aware of the cyclists. They're pretty slow. I need you. there's a lot of sort of like, oh yeah, this is the steel, what looks like a 1990s Trek that passed me. Yeah, there's a lot of what looks a little bit like sort of shabby chic farmhouse aesthetic here. Like I imagine sometimes people from Bogota get a little tired of the city and then come up here for a little rural getaway. I believe this is the very end of the climb, right under that sign there. So at this point, I'm still like, I gotta keep going because I don't know exactly where the segment ends, but I'm like, okay, I made it. And I'm just looking around, there's so many cafes, like on the left here, look at that. Okay, so many cafes, so many cool stuff. I ended up, and look, people selling cycling caps and jerseys, and this guy actually also had gels. It was amazing. So I ended up buying a cycling cap with monsteras on it from this guy. Here you can see my Tembici.